long before phones, long before flowers from a store, long before anyone ever said "I love you" in any language we'd recognize today, humans were already falling in love. And I don't mean that in some vague, poetic way. Scientists have actual physical proof, buried in the ground for thousands of years, that ancient humans held each other, gave gifts to win each other over, grieved lost partners, and yes, got their hearts broken. So today, we're going back before written history, before civilization as we know it, to find out how our ancestors actually fell in love. And by the end of this video, you might look at your own relationships a little differently, because it turns out falling in love could be one of the oldest human traditions there is. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most powerful evidence archaeologists have found: bodies, buried on purpose, in an embrace. The most famous case is a Neolithic tomb near Mantua, Italy, discovered in 2007 and nicknamed the Lovers of Valdaro. Two skeletons, around 6,000 years old, were found face to face with their arms and legs wrapped around each other. Examination showed no signs of violent death. This position wasn't an accident. Someone chose to bury these two people together, exactly like this. This isn't the only case either. Archaeologists have found similar double burials elsewhere, including a pair known as the Hassanlu lovers in modern-day Iran, nearly 3,000 years old, also found in an embrace. And centuries later, in Italy again, archaeologists uncovered two skeletons buried hand in hand this time. Two men, dating back roughly 1,500 years. What all of these have in common is intent. Someone, in each case, made a deliberate choice about how these people should be remembered together. That's not survival instinct. That's not random chance. That's grief. And a statement. These two belong together, even in death. Before you picture cavemen just grunting at each other, let's talk about how ancient humans actually showed affection while they were still alive. Archaeologists have found pierced shells, carved beads, and red ochre pigment at sites tens of thousands of years old, some of the earliest known examples going back over 70,000 years. These items had no survival function. They weren't tools, and they weren't food. Researchers believe many were personal adornments, worn to attract attention or stand out to a potential partner. In other words, prehistoric humans were accessorizing to impress someone, not so different from picking out an outfit before a first date. There's also strong evidence that early humans spent time grooming one another, a behavior still seen today in our closest primate relatives. Grooming builds trust and releases feel-good brain chemicals. Some anthropologists consider it one of the earliest forms of physical affection between humans long before anything like a kiss existed. Once writing was invented, we don't have to guess anymore because people started writing love down. One of the oldest known love poems in the world comes from ancient Mesopotamia, over 4,000 years ago. It was written in the voice of a bride expressing longing for her partner, and historians believe it was performed as part of a New Year ceremony. Strip away the ritual context, though, and the emotional language, the longing, the desire to be close to someone reads a lot like a love letter written today. Ancient Egyptian love poetry survives too, often comparing a partner to something rare and beautiful in nature, a blooming flower or the Nile at sunrise. For a long time, some historians assumed romantic love was mostly a recent cultural invention, something that developed in more recent centuries. Texts like these challenge that idea directly. The experience of longing for someone, missing someone, wanting to be chosen by them, that goes back thousands of years further than most people assume. It wasn't just poets writing about love, philosophers were debating what it even meant. In ancient Greece, the philosopher Plato wrote about love as something almost cosmic, describing it through the character Aristophanes in his work Symposium as humans searching for their other half, a person who completes them. That idea that somewhere out there is someone who just fits is over 2,400 years old, and it's still basically the plot of every romantic movie made today. Ancient Greek writers also distinguished between different kinds of love, the passionate, romantic kind versus deep friendship versus long-term devotion, which tells us something important. Ancient people weren't just experiencing love, they were actively trying to understand it, define it, and make sense of it exactly like we still do. Now here's the honest, balanced part, because not every ancient relationship began with romance the way we think of it today. In many ancient societies, marriages were often arranged for practical reasons, family alliances, economic stability, or social status. Romantic love wasn't always the reason two people ended up together. But arranged doesn't mean loveless. Historians have found personal letters and records showing that people in arranged relationships often developed real affection and partnership over time. The emotional bond wasn't always the starting point, but it was very often the outcome. So here's what all of this really tells us. Skeletons buried in permanent embraces, beads and pigment worn to catch someone's eye, poems written to express longing, philosophers trying to explain why we fall for people in the first place. All of it points to the same conclusion. Humans have been choosing each other and being chosen back for longer than history itself has been recorded. So here's my question for you. If you'd lived thousands of years ago, no phones, no texting, no way to overthink a text message for 3 hours, do you think you'd have had an easier time finding love or a harder time? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to know what you think. And if this changed how you see ancient humans, make sure you're subscribed, because next time we're answering a question you've probably never even thought to ask.